Good morning students, welcome to the class. Hope everyone is doing well. So the chapter what we are discussing is the chapter number 4, that is Kingdom Animalia, isn't it? So the first part is already over, hope it's clear. Just we can go through what we have already learnt, and today we will move into the world of invertebrates, okay, non-chordates we are going to discuss today. Before moving on to it, let's just recap the things what we have learned, isn't it? So in order to classify animals, when you're seeing, we have to classify them considering some of the features or considering some of the characteristics or the criteria, isn't it? So what were the criteria which we considered? Yeah, I have listed down. So the first one is what levels of organization, based on whether they are made up of cells or whether they are made up of tissue or whether they are made up of organs and organ system. Based on that, there are cellular level of organization, tissue level of organization, then you are having organ level of organization and organ system level of organization, isn't it? So examples also we saw. Then we moved on to the second criteria, that is your body symmetry. Body symmetry means what? Whether there is a symmetry, means you can divide your body into two equal halves in any way. Okay, if you can divide, you're having symmetry, and if you cannot, then the symmetry is not there. So based on that, we saw some animals are asymmetrical. What do you mean by asymmetrical? Means if you cut them through any plane, you are not going to get two equal halves. Then we call them as what? Asymmetrical, isn't it? So the first one is asymmetrical. The second one is bilateral. Bilateral means what? If you cut this animal, if you are cutting it, only through one plane you can cut it. Like for myself, when you see, I can cut myself in only one plane, isn't it? So that one we saw that it is bilateral symmetrical. And radial means if you are cutting like starfish or hydra and all, if you are cutting through any plane, you can find from any direction, you are getting two equal halves, isn't it? So if you can get two equal halves, then you are symmetrical. If you can cut only through one plane, it is bilateral. If you can cut through any plane, based on that you get two equal halves, then that will we call it as radial symmetry, isn't it? And those wherein you can find we cannot cut it anywhere, then that one is possessing what symmetry? They are possessing asymmetrical, means they don't have any particular symmetry. Okay, so that one we have discussed. Then we discussed about the nature of coelom. Coelom, you know, it is a fluid which is filled in the body cavity. Where is the body cavity? This body wall and the gut wall. In between that cavity we call it as what? The body cavity. If a fluid is present, okay, then we call it as true coelomate if it is derived from the mesoderm. And if a fluid is absent, then we call it as what? Acoelomate. And you can find another one is there, that is pseudocoelomate, means in scattered pouches it is present. And the coelom is not derived from the mesoderm, rather it is derived from the blastocoel during the embryonic development. Okay, so that type of coelomic animals we call it as what? Pseudocoelomate. Okay, so these are the three organisms based on the presence of body cavity and the fluid which is present in it, that is coelom. Okay, so coelom is present, eucoelomate or coelomate animals. Absent, acoelomate animals. Those are having in scattered pouches, and the coelom is not derived from mesoderm, rather from the blastocoel, then we call it as what? We call them as pseudocoelomate. Okay. Then we discussed about the embryonic layers, or can we also call it as what? Germ layers. Based on that, there are two categories of organisms. What are they? One is diploblastic and another one is triploblastic. Okay. So what do you mean by the term diploblastic? Diploblastic means they are having two dermal layers. Like they are having an outer ectoderm and an inner endoderm. All the organs are arriving from either the ectoderm or the endoderm. Then we call those animals as what? Diploblastic. Okay. And the next one is what? Triploblastic. What do you mean by triploblastic? They are having three dermal layers. So what are the three dermal layers? Ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. Okay. Then segmentation. If an organism can be divided into particular segments, either externally or internally, then they are metameric in nature. Like you're having the earthworm, thereafter leech, centipede, millipede are all what? They are having some sort of metamerism. And if you see this tapeworm, can I consider it as metameric? No. Externally the segments are getting joined, isn't it? So that is not metameric. So where the segmentation is missing, they are non-metameric in nature. When segmentation is possible, they are metabaric in nature. Okay. And the last one is presence or absence of notochord. Based on that also I classify animals. You know, a notochord during the embryonic stage you can find, which is later being means turned into what? It is turning into vertebral column. If this notochord is present, we categorize them under a group called as what? Chordates. If this notochord is absent, we put them under a group called as non-chordates. Okay. So now we are going into the first one, that is the non-chordates. So the world of non-chordates, many small animals we are going to discuss in this non-chordates, diverse range of animals belonging to different phyla, isn't it? We have already learned the phyla, isn't it? What are they? Porifera, thereafter Cnidaria, Ctenophora, isn't it? Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, okay, Echinodermata and Hemichordata. All these are coming under non-chordates. That is what we are going to do today. So let's move into the topic non-chordates. The first phylum what we are going to discuss is phylum Porifera. Here we go. So when you are learning these topics, how you can learn? You can just learn one example. Okay, so you are going to learn only one example, one or two example from each phyla. Keeping that animal in mind, you have to make out all the characteristics. So whenever you are learning the characteristics of a phyla, in your mind what should come? Organism should come into your mind belonging to that phylum. With that, if you are learning, then it will be becoming very easy. Okay. So most of the things are already discussed, technical terms in the previous class. Here some more new technical terms we are going to learn along with all the characteristics. So number one is phylum Porifera. So the first phylum what we are going to discuss is what? Phylum Porifera. Okay. So in that, what is the first characteristics? They are marine. Marine means, you know, they live in sea. Okay. Or some are fresh water. Fresh water means in the pond or lake you can find. Asymmetrical. Asymmetrical, you know, you cannot divide the animal into two equal halves in any plane. So in any plane you cannot divide the animal into two equal halves. Then I refer it as what? Asymmetrical animals. And they are having cellular level of organization. They are made up of group of cells. Okay, even they are not differentiated into tissue. Group of cells combined together and lives in close association. So that's why they are cellular level of organization. They have a water transport system called as canal system. And how does this water move? So for this you have to refer to a diagram. See here, this is example for Porifera. Okay. So you can find the water is moving in through this ostium. So what are the pores which are present all throughout the pori? That is why the name is Porifera. Through the ostium, through the holes, the water is moving into spongocoel. So this is the cavity where the water is moving. And thereafter, all the digestion, most of the process are carried out in this particular place, and the water is moving out along with undigested food material, waste, everything. The water is going out through an opening on the top called as osculum. What is the opening called? Osculum. So water is moving in through ostria and it is entering the spongocoel. From there, after all the processes is carried out, the waste and all is being carried out through opening at the top called as what? Osculum. Okay. So once again I will tell you this one. So water is moving through which one? Ostia. Okay. After moving this water, you can find there the water is used by the cells for various purposes. After that, the process is carried out, undigested particle, nitrogenous waste, everything along with the water, it is moving out through a structure called as osculum. Okay. So that is how this Porifera is undergoing the process. Now, body is supported by spicules or spongin fibers. So what do you mean by spicules or spongin fibers? They are somewhat rough spike-like structures which are present. Okay, you can find black dots, right? So these black dots which we call it as what? We call it as spicules. So you can find here spicules has been given. So they are somewhat rough structures which are present throughout the body, spicules. Okay, that is another one. They are fibrous in nature. Hermaphrodite. What do you mean by the term hermaphrodite? Both the male and the female sex organ are present in the same animal. Okay, we are not hermaphrodite, like male is different, female is different, but here the porifera, it is hermaphrodite, which means both the male organ as well as the female organ are present in the same organism. Okay, so like for example, hermaphrodite, we call it as bisexual. You know bisexual flowers, isn't it? Hibiscus is a bisexual flower, which means what? The anther, okay, carrying the what is this, pollen grains as well as the ovule is present in the same part, that is the same flower it is present. Then we call it as what? Bisexual, or we can use another term, hermaphrodite. So porifera is a hermaphrodite, both the male and the female are present in the same organ. Okay, reproduction, they usually undergo by fragmentation or by helping gamete formation. Fertilization is internal and development is indirect. Listen, these two terms once I will explain, again this will be repeated, I will not be saying. Okay, what is internal fertilization and what is external fertilization? Fertilization is said to be internal when the fertilization, that is the fusion of the male gamete sperm and the female gamete, the egg, is taking place inside the body of the female. Then it is called as internal fertilization. If it is taking place in the female sex organ, if it is taking place, then we call it as what? We call it as internal fertilization. Now what is external fertilization then? External fertilization means, you would have seen the like for example frog. Okay, what they do? They lay the eggs in the water bodies. The frogs, okay, the female ones lay the eggs on the water bodies. The male also, they move towards the egg, and there they used to deposit the sperm. Okay, so the eggs are laid on the water body as well as the sperms are also deposited over the egg, and sticky structure they are having, so that the fertilization is taking place outside the body of the female. So here the female is not there, it's outside the body of the female. In the water the fertilization is taking place. Then this sort of fertilization we call it as what? We call it as external fertilization, right? So when you are seeing here, the fertilization is internal. So fertilization is internal means what? Inside the body of the female the fertilization is taking place, and the development is indirect. What do you mean by the term indirect development? Listen, direct development, indirect development. Indirect means they are undergoing a process called as metamorphosis. What is the process? Metamorphosis. You have learned this process in your lower class. Like butterfly, you can find first egg will be laid, from there you can find a larva which is worm like structure, from there you can find a butterfly is coming out, isn't it? So when you are seeing this, the larva, the young one, is totally different from that of the adult. So in the embryonic stage they will not be resembling the adult, and later only they will be turning into a different organism. So that like that in frog also you can find the small one of the frog, the nymph, when you are seeing, they will be looking like fishes, but later they turn into frogs. So indirect development means the younger ones of those organism will not be resembling the adults. Okay, so they will have a different sort of appearance compared to adult. Then we call them as what? Indirect development. So in case of indirect development, what is the process which is taking place? Metamorphosis. The adult is not resembling the larval stages. So that sort of development we call it as what? Indirect development, and porifera is having what? Indirect development. Examples, sponges, cycon are all examples. So you can find here sponges, cycons, these are all what? These are all poriferans, right? Next we are moving on to the next phylum. The next phylum is Coelenterata. Okay, so the Coelenterata example is your hydra, jellyfish are all examples of what? These coelenterates. So these all are examples of what? Corals, sea anemone. Okay, so you can find all these animals, sea animals, corals, thereafter hydra, right? Then phyla, then jellyfish. All these are examples of what? Coelenterata. Okay, so Coelenterata can otherwise be referred to as Cnidaria, Cnidarians. Okay, now Coelenterata characteristics. What are the characteristics? They are radially symmetrical. Radially, I told you, if you want to cut them in from any plane, you will get what? 2 equal halves. Whatever direction you are cutting, you get 2 equal halves from any plane, then we call it as what? Radially symmetrical. Marine they are living in the ocean, sea, salty water. Sessile, sessile means what? They cannot move, they are attached, like corals are attached to the substratum, they cannot move from one place to another. And some coelenterate, they can move, like hydra can move from one place to another. Yeah, second point is have nidoblast. So what do you mean by the term nidoblast? Okay, so nidoblast means they are specific cells which are having some function. What is the function of these cells? So nidoblast cells are functional in the tentacles. Where it will be present? It is present in the tentacles. Okay, so what is this nidoblast cells doing in the tentacles? If you see, so I will be just showing you, right. So this is sea anemone. You can find these are the tentacles. What are they? They are the tentacles. Okay, so in the tentacles, when you are seeing at the tips, there are specific cells present called as what? Nidoblast. So these tentacles keeps on lashing. Lashing means what? They keep on moving. Okay, so whenever a prey, so imagine one prey is nearing to this tentacle, means what this prey tentacles do is that they will touch this prey and they will hypnotize. Hypnotize means these nidoblast cells contain some toxic, that toxic will be released into the prey. Okay, so now what will happen? These toxic will hypnotize means what? They will make them unconscious. Okay, and the tentacles will directly put it into the mouth. Okay, so the prey will enter into the mouth and it is being digested. So for defense also, in order to escape from the predators as well as for capturing food, anything they want to capture, what they are doing is that they are using this tentacles. So in the tentacles, what are present? Nidoblast cell. What the nidoblast cells will do? So when the tentacles are moving, if it is coming in contact with any animals, the tentacles will touch it, release the toxin. The nidoblast cells will be releasing the toxin and they are hypnotizing. They are making them unconscious and they are putting them into the mouth. Okay. So like that, for capturing food as well as for defense, these tentacles or nidoblast cells are playing a major role. Next is that they show tissue level of organization. Tissue level, you know. Next level, from cellular level, cells combine together to form tissues. Organs are not present, but tissues are performing the functions of the organism. Okay. Diploblastic, you know, what is diploblastic? Two germinal layer, isn't it? So one ectoderm and one mesoderm, these are present. Gastrovascular cavity has a single opening. Okay, so what is the single opening? Only from one side the food will be moving in, as well as from one side the food will be moving out. There is no other opening. So this is the opening through which the food is getting in as well as the food is going out. There is no other opening other than this one single opening. Okay, so that is another characteristics of what? This coelenterate has a single opening called as hypostome, and the digestion is intracellular and extracellular. Listen very carefully. What is this intracellular digestion and what is extracellular digestion? Intracellular means like this is a cell. Food is entering into the cell. Okay, like amoeba and all, when you are seeing or organisms undergoing intercellular digestion, what they do is that the food enters into the cell in the complex form. The food inside the cell is being digested by the digestive juices secreted by the cell, and the digested food, after the digestion, the cell itself is absorbing the nutrients, and the undigested food materials are moving out of the cell. So this is intracellular. Within the cell the digestion is taking place. Now in case of us it is not intracellular. In case of us, what is happening? So we are having the stomach intestine, isn't it? So the cavity which is present in the stomach inside, this is the cavity, right? So how my body is digesting? Extracellular. Extracellular means my stomach wall, intestinal wall, the cells are present. The cells will be secreting enzyme and putting it into the cavity. Now the food is present over here. In the food will be digested by these enzymes, and the digested food is being absorbed by the cells. Okay. So here the digestion is not taking place inside the cell. Where it is taking place? Outside the cell, in some space, cavities. So that one we call it as what? Extracellular digestion. So in case of this coelenterata, both are noted. Intracellular digestion is also present, extracellular digestion is also present. And the body has two forms. What are the two forms? One is polyp and another one is medusa. What do you mean by the term polyp and medusa? You can see they are two different structure. Polyp is somewhat like this. This is polyp and this is the structure of medusa. They are two different structure. This is asexually reproducing body and this one is a sexual structure. So they undergo a type of alternation of generation. We call it as metagenesis. So what is metagenesis? You see, this is polyp. Okay, this polyp, they undergo asexual reproduction and they will be resulting in the formation of this medusa. Medusa is having a structure like this, and in this medusa female and male sex organs are present, and these female male sex organs will undergo reproduction sexually. Okay, so what sort of reproduction is taking place? Sexual reproduction, fusion of gametes, and thereafter they will be resulting in the formation of what? Medulla. Polyp. Again, polyp, they divide asexually to result in the formation of what? Medusa, and the medusa divide sexually to result in the formation of polyp. So like this you can find alternation of generation is present. Okay, so this point is it's just to note down this point. Produce, polyps produce medusa asexually and medusa produce polyps sexually. What is this polyp and medusa? Same organism but exhibiting two different structure. One is the normal structure, one is the sexually reproducing structure. Like sporophyte, gametophyte are having different structures, but the organism is the same. Here also the organism is the same, but they are having different structure. One is the polyp which undergoes asexual reproduction to form medusa. Medusa undergoes sexual reproduction to form polyps. So there is alternation of generation between asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. This sort of alternation of generation we call it as what? Metagenesis. Clear? So examples of this coelenterate are given, which I have already shown you people. Right? Now moving on to the next phylum, Ctenophora. C is silent, Ctenophora. Sea walnuts of corn jellies are examples for what? This Ctenophora. Okay, so these are the examples. Characteristics, they are marine, fine, radially symmetrical, can be divided into two equal halves in any plane, diploplastic, ectoderm, endoderm. They have tissue or level of organization. Body has comb plates for circulation. So you can find comb plates are present, and what is this comb plates using for? These comb plates are used for locomotion from one place to another. Thereafter, digestion can be intracellular or extracellular, have bioluminescence. Now new term, bioluminescence. Bioluminescence means what? Bioluminescence means they are emitting some sort of lights by which they make themselves visible in the dark regions of oceans. Okay, so this you can find Ctenoplana is having what? Bioluminescence. Bioluminescence means what? The organism is emitting a form of light. Okay, like fireflies you would have seen, isn't it? They emit light in the night. You can see them flying because they have the property of bioluminescence. So organisms in the oceans are having, many organisms are having what? Bioluminescence, in order to make them visible. Okay, so that is one characteristic feature of what? The Ctenophora. Hermaphrodite. What is hermaphrodite? You know, both the male and the female sex organs are present in the same organism. They reproduce sexually, and fertilization is external and indirect development. External means on the water the fertilization is taking place, and the development is indirect, which means the larva doesn't resemble the adult. Okay. Now moving on to the next phylum, Platyhelminthes, flatworms, right? So this Platyhelminthes example you can see, liver fluke is an example, flatworms, so this is an example. Okay, tapeworm is an example of Platyhelminthes, right? Planaria is a free living Platyhelminthes. So like this you can find the Platyhelminthes. Now Platyhelminthes dorsiventrally flattened, means the top side as well as the bottom side is flat. Okay. Endoparasite. Endoparasite means they live in the body of an organism. Like tapeworm live in my abdomen, take food from my abdomen, disturb me. As a parasite they are sucking my blood or sucking my digested food. Okay. So in order to attach themselves to my stomach or my abdomen, what they have hooks, sucker like structures on the heads, which helps them to attach themselves to the host in which they are living. Okay. They are bilaterally symmetrical. Bilaterally means what? This is a worm, means you can divide it into two equal halves through only one plane. You cannot divide it like this. You have to divide it only like this, isn't it? Acoelomate, they do not have coelom. Triploplastic, they contain what? Ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. Okay. Organ level of organization means they have developed organs. Okay. Flame cells are present in them. These flame cells are helping in regulation of water. How much water is needed by the body is being regulated by specialized cell present in them called as flame cells, and they are thereby helping in excretion. Excess water is excreted out. Okay. Sexes are separate. Male is different from that of the female. Fertilization is internal inside the body of the female, and development is indirect. Again, indirect, I told you, somewhat the younger ones are not resembling the parent. Ascalmenthus is the next phylum. Roundworm is that. Ascaris, okay, is again an example for what? Ascalmenthus. Now Ascalmenthus, when you are seeing what are the characteristics, so roundworm is an example. Maybe free living, aquatic, terrestrial or parasitic. Can live free or they can be aquatic in nature. Aquatic, you know, on water bodies, or they can be on land or in the body of any organism as a parasite. Bilaterally symmetrical, you can cut them into two equal halves only in one plane. And triploplastic, containing ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. Pseudocoelomate, they do not have true body cavity. Organ system level of organization, and they are having what? Complete digestive system, which means opening as well as the exit, that is the mouth and the anus are present. Two openings are present of the digestive system, and they have sexual dimorphism. Sexual dimorphism means what? The male and the female are separate, and males are females, when you are seeing, they are longer than that of the males. Okay. Fertilization internal inside the body of the female, and the development is direct, which means the younger ones resembles the adult. Okay. So these are the characteristics of Ascalmenthus. Now moving on to next phylum, Annelida. Annelida, example for Annelida is given here. You can find Nereis is one, leech, you know, earthworm are all coming under what? Annelida. Okay. So this is earthworm, this is leech with bloodsuckers, isn't it? This is Nereis, are all annelidans, right? Now Annelida characteristics. Aquatic, okay, they live on land, also terrestrial, mostly free living, some are like parasites. Metamerically segmented. Metamerically segmented means what? They are having segmentation. Correctly, they are having divided into many segments. Okay, those segments we call it as annules. Body is coelomate, contain body cavity filled with fluid. Triploplastic, ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm present. Bilaterally symmetrical, can divide into two equal halves in one plane, and have organ system of organization. Nephridia are structures which are present in them, and they help in what? Excretion. Okay, as well as regulating my body, their body water content. Some are monoecious and some are dioecious. Now listen very carefully, new term, what is monoecious and what is dioecious? Monoecious means both the male and the female sex organ is present in the same organism. Both male as well as female is present in the same organism, then we call it as monoecious. If the male organism is different and the female organism is different, then we call it as dioecious. Okay. So example for monoecious annelidans are earthworm and leech. Example for dioecious annelidans are Nereis. Male and female are different, present in different organisms. Okay. And reproduction is sexual, that is regarding Annelida. Now moving on to the next one, Arthropoda. Largest group you can find, innumerable number of organisms are present in this group. And why? Because they are the group which consists of different varieties of insects. Okay. So body is made up of chitinous exoskeleton. Chitinous exoskeleton, what do you mean by exoskeleton? Outer covering. Okay. So when you are seeing the cockroach, you can see the cockroach outside covering is made up of what? The outside covering, they are made up of a brown coating, isn't it? So brown coating is present outside the body of the cockroaches or any insects. That is made up of a molecule called as what? Chitin. Okay. So that's why they are having chitin as an exoskeleton. And body consists of head, thorax and abdomen. Head, thorax and abdomen. This is cockroach, this part is head, thorax is this part, okay, and this one is the abdomen. So body is divided into head, thorax and abdomen, and they have many appendages. Appendages means what? Legs, okay, jointed legs are present. That is the another characteristics. Respiration, it is taking place with the help of some structures called gills. When it is in water, with the help of gills they respire. Bucculums or trachea when they are present on the land, okay. And they are having open type of circulatory system. I told you what is open time. The blood when the heart is pumping the blood is not going into the arteries or veins. They are directly forced into the body fluid, okay. So that type of circulatory system we call it as open circulatory system, and the excretion is taking place with the help of Malpighian tubule. So you can find these are the structure, thread like structure which are present, and they are helping in excretion, giving out the nitrogenous waste. Urea is being given out, okay, with the help of what? This Malpighian tubule. Body is bilaterally symmetrical. Yes, I can cut this cockroach only into two equal halves only in what plane? One plane, isn't it? So through like this only I can be cut. Like this if I am cutting, I will not get one plane, right? So only with the help of two equal halves can be made with the help of only one plane, then we call it as what? Bilateral symmetry. Okay, bilateral symmetry, triploplastic, contain ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm, coelom is present. Organ system level of organization. Dioecious means male and female are different. Fertilization in the body of the female. Oviparous, yes, again a new term. What is oviparous? Oviparous means egg laying. The female used to lay the eggs, and from the eggs the baby hatches out. Then this sort of organism we call it as oviparous, okay. And what is viviparous? So the opposite of oviparous is what? Viviparous. So what is viviparous? If the organism is not laying the egg, directly the development is taking place in the body of the female, and the young one is coming out from the female, okay. So then we call it as what? Viviparous, right. So in oviparous, egg is laid, mother used to sit on the egg for a long duration, like birds and all you would have seen. They used to sit on the egg, take care of the egg, give warmth, and the egg hatches out to come, the baby comes out. So this is oviparous. If the eggs are not laid, the all sort of development is taking place inside the body of the female, and then the organism is coming out directly. In case of humans also, it is viviparous, okay. So these are the two terms again you are learning new. Then direct or indirect sort of what? Development you can find. In some insects it is direct, in cockroaches it is indirect, okay. So like that different sort of development can be seen. So these are all arthropods. So this is again arthropod, centipede, millipede, okay. So these all you see in your day to day life, isn't it? So scorpion, spider, prawn or crab are all examples of what? Arthropods. Now moving on to the next one, molluscus, okay. This is the second largest phylum. So the first one was arthropod, this is the second. And molluscus, when you are seeing, they are terrestrial or aquatic. Molluscus example, when you see, you can find these are molluscus having snail like this, okay. Snails and all, these are all octopuses. So molluscus, cuttlefish, okay. So these are all what? These are all molluscus, right. Now moving on to this molluscus characteristics. Terrestrial, on land, can be in water, some organisms are. Bilateral symmetry, triploplastic, coelomate. I am not saying all these definition, many times I have told you. Shows organ system level of organization. Body is calcareous shells. They are made up of what? Hard covering, okay. So you can find hard covering, calcium deposited. That's why the name is what? Calcareous cells, okay. So that is next point. Body has a distinct head, muscular foot and visceral hump. So you can find here. So this one is your head, okay. This is the visceral hump, and this one is your foot, the ending part. So this is head, okay. Thereafter you can find this one is your visceral part, and this one is your foot. So these are the structure when you are seeing of this molluscus, right. Now moving on to some other points. A soft and spongy layer of skin forms the mantle over visceral hump. So you can find here mantle is one portion, isn't it? So it is forming, this is visceral hump. So just above the visceral hump you can find a soft layered structure called as what? The mantle, right. So that is the next point. Mantle cavity has gills, perform respiration and excretion. So in this only you are having what? In the cavity of this mantle, here in the visceral part, you are having what? Gills. And they are helping in what? They are helping in respiration. Okay. And excretion as well. Mouth has file-like rasping organ called radula for feeding. So you can find the mouth is having a rasping, like teeth-like projections present. Okay. So this part you can find this structure present. This structure we call it as what? The teeth-like structure which are present, we call it as radula, which is helping for feeding. Okay. Dioecious, oviparous. Dioecious means male and female are present in the different organism. Oviparous means they lay eggs in direct development. Okay. So the young ones will not resemble the adult. The last one is echinodermata. Okay. So the echinodermata, starfish. So these are all coming under what? Echinodermata, the phylum. Yeah. So these are all what? Echinodermatans, right? So you have seen, right? Now echinodermata characteristics. Endoskeleton is spiny. Their body, when you are seeing inside, it is spiny, hard, calcareous, made up of calcium. All are marine. They live on seawater. Triploplastic, you know. Coelomate, you know, bilaterally symmetrical when they are small. Larvae is bilaterally symmetrical, but they turn into adult, they become what? Radially symmetrical. So organ system level of organization. Complete digestive system, which means they have two openings, one in the front and one in the out. On mouth is on the ventral side, anus is where? On the dorsal side. Okay. And water vascular system helps in food capture and transportation. So water vascular system, you can find this one is tube feeds. So these are structures called as what? Water vascular system. They are the one which is playing a major role in capturing the food, for transportation of food to one part from another, for locomoting from one place to another, and for respiration. So these tube feed, what structure has been given over here? This tube feed is playing a major role in carrying out all these functions. Okay. They don't have an excretory system. Reproduction is sexual. Okay. So excretory system is not there, then how it is moved, the excreted? It is excreted along with the water. The substances is also just going out. Okay. So water is entering in with the help of tube feed. They are helping in locomotion. Thereafter, along with the water only, the any waste is there, that is excreted out. Okay. And fertilization is external, outside. Okay. And indirect. I told you the larvae is bilaterally symmetrical and the adult is what? Radially symmetrical. So these are the characteristic feature of what? Echinodermata. Now before moving on to chordata, you are having an intermediate form called as what? Hemichordata. Worm-like marine animals. Hemichordatas are worm-like marine animals. So it is a hemichordata, protochordata. So you can find this is the structure, okay, of protochordata. So what are the characteristics? Bilaterally symmetrical, yes, you can cut into two equal halves. In one plane, coelomate, triploplastic organ system. Cylindrical body, having proboscis. Proboscis is mouth, collar and long trunk. So you can find this is proboscis, collar, trunk. Okay. So this is how they are divided into. Open type of circulatory system. Blood is pumped, blood flows into the spaces without any arteries and veins. Respiration, gills are present. Sexes are separate, external fertilization and development is indirect. Example is what? Balanoglossus is an example for what? This is balanoglossus is an example for hemichordata. Okay. So with this I am winding up today's class. So we discussed about different types of non-chordates. In the next class we will be discussing about chordata. Hope it's clear. Thank you.